everybody out there. Welcome back to Mindful Moments Podcast with Dr. Watts. I am excited to be here as always, and let's just get started. Y'all know that I always ask how y'all day or in week and all of the things have been for you thus far. So that's it. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you had a great week. Let me know if you did something that you wanted to do. And you know the rule here in our family, right? In our family, we must do something that makes us happy, and all of the busyness that life consists of. You know, it's very important to make sure that you are taking time for yourself, right? Because if you're not okay, how can you help anyone else? It's not possible. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? You cannot. So I hope that you are really taking that into consideration and doing something that's best for you. For me, I had a great week. I mean, I like to fill y'all in about like what I got going on, what I'm doing, and all of the great things. And so for me, most of you know, I do have MS, multiple sclerosis, and so this other day, Saturday, May 4th, it was MS Walk Day. And so I had an amazing time getting out there with many individuals who have some of the same struggles, and being able just to walking for the cause, to raise awareness of the disease itself, with hopes for individuals to fundraise and to raise more funds so that scientists can continue to do what it is that they do best, and that is figuring out curable ways to help cure this disease process. Yeah. So again, thank you to my family and my friends who came out. It was just an amazing, great time, and my heart is still filled with so much joy. So let's get into it, right? Like, I'm super excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about managing relationships. We're going to talk about boundaries related to it. And the reason that I'm saying all of those things as it pertains to relationships is because relationships are one of the hardest things to discuss. And I'm not necessarily talking about a relationship with like a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife. No, I'm talking about friendships. I'm talking about family members and relationships with family members, right? And as we know that many times relationships, the downfall of relationships are primarily because we do not have, we haven't established like those healthy coping mechanisms or those healthy strategies to maintain a relationship overall. Why is this, you may ask? The reason being is because sometimes it's just simply easier just to kind of remain in this complacent space. Kind of like, you know, when you're raised with like your siblings, or, you know, in the home setting, wherever that was for you, whether you were raised by your parents, if you were adopted, a grandmother, an aunt, uncle, whatnot. But if they teach you to reply and respond to relationships in a certain perspective, then what are you going to do? You're going to do just that. And many times, often, we put ourselves to the side. We put our emotions, we kind of lay our own way to the side by staying in a place where that individual who taught us that thing wants us to remain. Does that make sense? I hope so. And I'm going somewhere with this because what I do know is that in this next season, in this time right now, it is so important to make sure that you are doing exactly what it is that your heart has been telling you to do. And what I mean by that is have that conversation. Don't be afraid to say, hey, you know what? I don't like it when X, Y, Z. I don't like it when, you know, you do this and then you expect for me to respond like that. So I encourage you to open up your mind today on this show as we're speaking, and I'm hoping that this helps someone to gain knowledge or even the confidence to say, you know what, it's okay for me to feel how I'm feeling, but What's not okay is for me to continue to hold myself hostage, because ultimately, hypothetically speaking, that is what you are doing when you do not have the conversation that you've been wanting to have, or not necessarily a conversation always, but making that proper transition. It's important sometimes to make the proper transition, right? The transition from that stagnant space in which you have remained in for so long, doing the same things the same way. Because why? That powerful 4-letter word that we really don't like: fear. Fear. What is it that you fear? So let's go ahead and address that. And that's one of the main questions that I kind of want to talk about and chime in and dive into today. Why is it hard for me to maintain or manage relationships? So basically, I just kind of told you, like we just kind of spoke all around it. But more importantly, people have difficulty building relationships because of fear of what people may think, right? So how they think about you, how they may perceive you. So instead of, stepping outside of my box and saying, you know what, I'm going to do it this way, we remain right there because we fear now, are they going to judge me? Are they going to accept me? Are they going to love me the same? Right? So it's the fear of what people may think. That's number one. Number two, fear of, not the fear anymore. Now we're going to go from the fear to the lack of self-esteem or confidence. And right here, I love to talk about this part because many times now, not only do we fear what you're going to think, but now I don't even have the confidence or the esteem to esteem myself to say, you know what, you are right in the way that you're thinking. And that's that self-talk that you have to do. That's you affirming yourself. Okay? In confidence. Do I have the confidence to be like, you know what? I'm assertive. I'm very sure that this situation is not how I want it to be anymore. So I'm going to speak to it so that now the outcome is different. And sometimes other insecurities may trigger your past relationship experiences. So maybe post-traumatic stress disorder related to a previous relationship with a best friend or a spouse or a family member. So how can I manage this better, right? So improve your self-confidence, improve your self-esteem, surround yourself around like-minded individuals, and then be assertive about how you feel about what you're feeling. It's okay. It is okay. And then and only then will you be able to better manage relationships with family members, whether it's or a spouse, or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a friend, a best friend. And that's a major one that I see happening all of the time, right? Like I see where individuals may be friends with someone for like 25 years, 15, 20, 10 years, what have you, right? What I mean is a longevity relationship. So what happens over time? What is supposed to happen over time? Well, transition is supposed to occur over time. Elevation is supposed to occur over time. Growth, development, right? No one wants to remain stagnant. But what happens is in a relationship with a friend who becomes a best friend / sister and or brother, what happens is that individual, they're used to you remaining in a certain space, right? So when it's time for you to elevate and transition, it makes it that much harder. It makes it that much harder for them to accept you. So if that is the case, then how do you better manage at this point? That, first of all, should be a red flag to you. That should be a red flag. If you are surrounding yourself around someone, you spend most of your time, majority of your time with someone who does not want to see you succeed in every perspective, not just financially, not your career, but your mindset, your mentality, the way that you think, the way that you respond and or reply to a situation. If they don't like the emotional intelligence that you are now integrating in your relationship because you have grown, you're no longer that 18-year-old girl or boy, then that should prompt you to make the change that you need to change. To make the move that you need to make. Okay? So how do I manage better? When you start taking these things that we're discussing right now and you fine tune them, and for a lot of you, I know that this is stepping on your toe. And we have all been guilty of saying, you know what? I'm going to stay right here because it feels good. It's comfortable. I know what this feels like. So no matter how I feel, you know what? I'm going to just stay right here and it'll be okay. They'll be okay. They'll get over it by tomorrow. They will get over it by next week. Is that fair to you? It is not fair to you. So I'll answer that question for you. It is not fair. So in order to step into the fullness of where you are transitioning to, some things has to be released and detached from you. I always tell people on my social media platform, in person, in my therapeutic settings with individuals who I help to develop and to heal from some of the things that they have held on to, everyone cannot grow where you go. Simple as that. Everyone cannot grow where you go. What does that mean, Dr. Watts? What that means is everyone is not going to go where you are growing to. Or everyone is not going to meet you right where you are. Why? Because they have not gained the tools that they need necessary to manage and maintain healthy relationships. Okay. All right. Whew, as you can see, we get real passionate here in our family about this topic, right? Because I want you to be your best self. I want you to feel that you can go into this conversation having it and being secure, right? In what you are speaking of, what you are talking about, how you are feeling, and the changes that you need to make. I want you to feel comfortable. I don't want you to stay in this space. It's not good. It's very unhealthy. I have a book with me on the show today, and the book is simply drama-free. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of browsing. I do a lot of comparison of my material to others and all of the things just to say, hey, I know I'm not tripping over here, right? Because I want to make sure that everyone is healing. I want to make sure that everyone has the tools. If you do not have this book on how to manage unhealthy family relationships, and I've taken this outside of the scope of what is written on the book. This is by Nedra Glover, and I am going to meet her one day. I swear I am. I tell you, a lot of our material is so similar. It's crazy. I've never met a like-minded individual in comparison to the things that I say, the way that I think, the way that I write, the way that I create, and all of the things until my husband introduced me to this lady, this wise, wonderful, brilliant person who put all of the right tools in here, right? Because these are things that we go through every single day. We've learned how to not manage healthy relationships. That was a learned behavior, and I can go on about that. And you all know where I'm going with this, especially from culture to culture. Right? So like in a lot of cultures, we just learn to manage. We just learn to go. We just deal with it. We learn to sweep things underneath the rug. And what happens underneath that rug is getting higher and higher. The more that you pile on, it's getting higher and higher, right? Until one day you burst at the seams. And it's a catastrophic outcome because you've held on to all of this trauma. You've held on to all of these unhealthy tendencies, all of these things over the years. From days to months to years, centuries. And sometimes people die with that thing. Sometimes they die with it. So I want to encourage you to purchase this book. Purchase this book. It is by Nedra Glover. And it is New York Times best-selling author, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. And it's an extension of some of the work that she does. And so if you don't believe me, like I'm telling you, this will help you gain some tools. And obviously, my first book, I say, Mind Over Matter. These are some of the things you can overcome and accomplish anything that you put your mind to. You can overcome that matter. So that unhealthy relationship, that unhealthy situation, that unhealthy friendship, that unhealthy marriage, that unhealthy relationship that you may have with, whomever you're with, you can overcome it if you have that right mindset. Everything starts with the mind, right? So I always tell you all, God is the source. And when you have the source of Christ, then everything else will fall under. But that mindset has to be in that space. It cannot be in a distraught space. It cannot be in a traumatized space. Sure, we all go through things, traumatic situations, things that may trigger us. But what are we doing about it? Are you ready to heal from that thing? Are you ready to have that conversation? Are you ready to become your best self and manage relationships as you know how to do, but you've been afraid to? So today on this show, I want you to promise yourself no more. Like, tell yourself no more. I do not have to go through this any longer. From here on out, I will manage things in my life, whether they are people that I am connected to. If I have to detach and ask God to replace and to remove, and sometimes we just have to be still, right? Sometimes we have to be still and look for that direction and follow the voice of Christ, not our voice. Not of the person next to us, and not wanting to do the things that we always want to do. And sometimes that's how things are done wrong. Let's face it. Let's be honest with ourselves. Okay? So managing healthy relationships. Build your self-confidence. Believe in yourself. Embrace yourself. Love yourself. Take time for yourself. Listen to yourself. And this is not a dismiss of anyone who you have been connected to. I have to be very clear on this show because I don't need anything to be misperceived or misspoken. This is to build you as the individual and you as my family member. Because all of you watching, and that's a part of Mindful Moments podcast, it's a part of the family, right? So we want to move on in a healthy perspective. Managing relationships, you can do it. I believe in you. And I'll see you next time on Mindful Moments podcast. Thanks for joining.